All right, let's get our hands dirty. Today, we're becoming builders. We're going to take one of the most popular programming languages in the world, Java, and literally construct our very first program right from the ground up. If you've ever been even a little bit curious about coding, this is your starting point. So let's dive right in. Now, before we lay a single brick, you've got to understand Java's core philosophy. Write once, run anywhere. So what does that even mean? It means a program you build on your laptop can run on a Mac, a Windows PC, or a Linux server, and you don't have to rewrite a single line of code. It pulls off this magic trick using something called the Java Virtual Machine, which is kind of like a universal translator. This idea, this portability, is what made Java the absolute giant it is in the tech world. So here's our game plan for today's build. First, we're going to study the blueprint to really get what Java is all about. Then we'll gather up our tools and set up our workshop. After that, it's time to lay the foundation with our first lines of code and then install a smart component using logic. And finally, we'll take a look at where you can go from here. Okay, first things first. Every big construction project needs a solid blueprint, and for us, that blueprint is Java. So, what is it exactly? This definition really packs a punch, because it highlights all of Java's key strengths. General purpose just means it's a multi-tool. You can build web apps, mobile apps, huge business software, you name it. Object-oriented, now that's a really powerful idea, where you model your code after real-world things, like a car or a bank account. It just makes organizing complicated programs so much easier. And of course, it all comes back to that core idea of running on any platform. All right, we have our blueprint. Now, what does every builder need? A workshop with the right tools. So let's get ours set up. You really only need two essential tools to get started. First up is the JDK, the Java Development Kit. Think of this as your engine. It takes the code that we as humans can read, and it compiles it, or translates it, into instructions the computer can actually understand. And then you've got an IDE, an integrated development environment. This is your workbench. It's an app with a code editor and all these other helpful features that make writing and testing your code a whole lot easier. So the setup is a pretty simple two-step process. First, you're going to head to the official Oracle website and install the JDK. That's our engine. Once that's done, you install your IDE, your workbench. And look, while there are a ton of options out there, a fantastic one for beginners is called BlueJ, because it was literally designed to help people learn Java from scratch. Our workshop is ready to go. So let's move on over to the building site and see how we lay the foundation. It's time to write our very first bricks of code. Okay, I know this might look a little intimidating, but don't worry. This is the basic scaffolding for pretty much every Java program you'll ever see. The class line names our blueprint, and that main line inside it, that creates the official starting point. All the real work, all the magic happens right where it says your code starts here. We're going to break these pieces down right now. Let's zoom in on that first word, class. A class is basically the main container for your program. The best way to think of it is as the master blueprint for whatever specific component you're building. Every single program you create is going to be wrapped inside at least one of these. Now for the most important part of our foundation, the main method. Think of this as the front door to your house, or maybe the ignition switch in your car. When you tell your computer to run the program, it immediately looks for main and just executes whatever code it finds inside those curly braces. This is where all the action begins. Okay, the foundation is solid. Now for the really, really exciting part. We're going to add a smart component. We are literally going to teach our program how to think for itself and make decisions. So how do we actually do that? How do programs choose what to do next? Well, it all comes down to asking the right questions. And lucky for us, Java gives us a fantastic set of tools for this. The most fundamental ones are the if and switch statements. These let us create branches in our code, basically different paths the program can take depending on whether some condition is true or false. Let's look at a super simple example. First, we create something called a variable, which is just a container to hold a piece of information. Here, our variable is called number, and we've stored the value 10 inside of it. Then the if statement asks a question. It asks, hey, is the value in that number variable greater than 0? Since 10 is definitely greater than 0, the condition is true, and the program is going to run the code in that first set of braces. So this if-else structure is just like a fork in the road for your program. It checks a condition right at the beginning of the fork. If that condition is true, it goes down one path. But if it's false, the else keyword provides the alternative, and the program follows the other path. It's a guarantee that one, and only one, of these two paths will be taken.
So, when should you use an if-else versus its cousin, the switch statement? Well, think of it like this. If-else is your adjustable wrench. It's super flexible, great for complex logic or simple true-false questions. A switch statement, though, that's more like a specific socket set. It's perfect when you're checking one single variable against a list of very specific known values, like, say, checking the day of the week. It can make your code so much cleaner and easier to read in those specific situations.
And with that, you've done it. Seriously, you've gone from a blueprint all the way to a functioning piece of logic. The first, and honestly most important step of your builder's journey is now complete. Just step back for a second and look at what you've accomplished. You've got the blueprint, you've got the tools, you have a solid foundation, and now you have the very first piece of logic. You've assembled all the fundamental components of a real-deal Java program. You just taught a computer how to make a decision. This simple if-else thing we just did, that's the fundamental building block of, well, everything, from simple apps to crazy complex artificial intelligence. You now have the first, most important piece of the puzzle. So the only question left is, what are you going to build next?